What is up, everybody? This is CryptoVatsik. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get started, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button to support the channel. And if you do find this content helpful, which I think you will, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future updates. As always, this is not financial advice and are my opinions only. Let's get right into it. Okay, today we are going to talk about Solana. Okay, really like this coin long term. I had invested in Solana early on when it got listed and bought around $3 and made the mistake of selling this one way too early. And I'm not going to make that same mistake again. I think it has a very bright future. Everyone gets bearish near the bottom. Same thing happened early days with Ethereum. And you know what? Then it bounces back, and then the fundamentals never changed, right? And then it shows everybody, who's boss. So we are zoomed in on the 12-hour on a little bit more of a lower time frame, so way down here. Okay, so we're just taking a closer look at what we're seeing at the moment. And so we'll dive into this, and then we will dive into a bit more of a longer term macro scale where I think this coin's headed. Okay, so let's just look at what I shared on my Twitter yesterday, and what we're seeing right now is just basically this range. This is very typical of a lot of altcoins that we're seeing, right? Solana is not doing anything much different. And what we're seeing is we made our macro low, okay, back here, which a lot of coins did, made our macro low, which is our current low still, right? Because we have not breached it. So what we did was we had a range low, and then we made this range high, okay? So we got RH and RL for range low, range high, and then in the middle of that is the equilibrium, right? Which you can see has been respected many times as support or resistance, flipping it back and forth, okay? And so when we had this pump up here, basically what we were doing was we were just coming into supply, right? So we came into these areas where people were underwater or whatever it may be. People ended up shorting up here or offloading their positions that they're underwater on to get out, and or they had loaded up back here in demand, right? This area, green area support, otherwise known as demand. They were unloading and selling in profit. Okay, so we swept these highs, hence the check marks. This was our key breakdown from this point, which was not a higher low. People were hoping to see a higher low here and, potentially continue up. And this would have been our bottom, but it was not. So then we made our true bottom. Okay. And so now we have this overall range and we're just playing around in it. Not much has changed and there's no reason to get bearish. People, we're in a ranging market and people are talking about if it's the bottom or if it's, we're headed lower. And, you see these heated conversations on Twitter about this, but really nothing has changed in the meantime. So yeah, that's great. We can make our predictions, but in the meantime, price hasn't really done much. So we've been playing around in here. We've swept demand a couple times. Okay, it came back up into supply, and then now we're just playing around between these key SR levels. Okay, so we got resistance above, clearly deviated above briefly, came right back down into demand here, where people are loading up potentially. And we have flipped this key SR level right here, if you can see that. Okay, so that was a key SR level that we were trying to get back above, and it struggled until we finally did, but then broke back down below, and then now we're back above. Okay, so this is a key area in this is the short term that I'm talking about right now. So would like to see this level around $32.50 hold if we're going to talk about testing above the range high, if we can get through this resistance. Okay, so we have swept this area of bearish consolidation over here with this pump here, this short squeeze here, right? This really made bears sweat, and we weren't able to actually break it into support. So it's still resistance. However, we're just trapped, right? We're just pinched between support and resistance. I mean, these are just key support and resistance zones, demand and supply zones that are battling it out, so to speak. They're trying to push price in either direction to win the battle and then flip a key area where bears will end up bullish, right? And then they'll turn into bulls and then they'll start buying because we've broken that key area. We've broken market structure. We've made a higher high. Ultimately, we need to take out this high, right? So I'd love to see us just like this, break above here, break it into support, multiple candle closes above, and then we can start talking about testing this range high up to around $46. And otherwise, the vice versa is we do not hold this SR level. This demand has been exhausted. we end up breaking below, and then it becomes resistance, and then our target would be down here at the very least, testing this low and seeing what kind of demand is still down here waiting to buy. And so ultimately, as traders, we can make predictions, which is great, but you make predictions based on what the price is telling you, based on data, right? You're not just blindly guessing what it's doing. You're looking at past history and price action and making a prediction or a thesis based on that, right? So that's all we can do. And until we start to break some of these resistances or break some of these support levels, then you're essentially just guessing, right? So that's fine. I have nothing against it, but in the meantime, I just want to see what the chart tells us before just deciding a direction, okay? So that's a little bit lower time frame, kind of what we're seeing currently. Now, I just want to show you another chart that I had shared quite some time ago on my Twitter as well, and it's a bit more of a macro look, okay? And what I had said was not specific only to Solana. We are going to see an area of accumulation where we are going to see boring price action, boring volume, and price is going to flatline, and we might dip down a little bit further. And I'm not saying we can't break this low. We could break this low. And the blue line here is basically just a rule of it's don't take it to scale. It's just an overall general idea of how I think I see this playing out, simply because this is how it's played out every other time before, okay? And so I had expected that we would range around in this area. We had dipped only once in my buy zone. If you can see that with that wick, we've only dipped actually into my buy zone once. So I would expect that we'd get at least another opportunity or two potentially to buy within this area of this buy zone, which lives below $29.40 ish, call it, okay? So with that said, I would expect to see a pretty good dip. Maybe it's just my bias. Maybe I'm hoping for that, that we could dip down to my next buy zone, which is around 13 bucks. And I know that sounds pretty bearish, but we've just seen that in other markets where we've just had that final capitulation point, right? Where we've held this level out throughout the bear market, and then it breaks, and then it finally is able to bottom, and the market can recover and the volume comes back. And so even though I would like to buy in this buy zone down here, I have even explained that I would expect that I would consider that a gift, honestly, if it's possible, right? I think Solana in this market around 13 bucks is a gift, and if I get the opportunity to buy that low, I will be long term, okay? But essentially, I'm waiting for that knee-jerk reaction. I'm waiting for that kick in the market, right? Where we see volume spike, we see potentially a dump, or it just pumps, and then we've bottomed, right? Which is fine. But then this overall thesis remains the same, is that we've had our accumulation area. That would mean that this was accumulation. I don't think this looks like accumulation right now, but we need to have that long-term accumulation area, kind of where the institutional money gets in, right? Where the smart money is starting to buy slowly without really making a reaction in price. And then you start to see it really recover and form that base that it can hold. And then we see our first impulse wave. Okay, our first impulse wave breaking major market structure of the bear trend, making a major higher high, and then coming up into a reaccumulation area, right? This is what this is called right here. That's a reaccumulation area, or you could call it bullish consolidation, but I would call it reaccumulation long term. And that area is where that's where retail, I would say, is going to start to get interested again. But they might still be undecided. They might kind of, not sure, not certain. They've got, basically PSD from the bear market sort of thing, and they don't trust it. They don't believe it'll ever go up again kind of thing. But then they start to see the next wave up, right? And then that's when they get excited. They start getting involved, or they start buying, and it starts pumping, and then it's game on, so to speak. And I'm not sure where I got this area of resistance up here. This might have been on a different time frame. I'm on the weekly. I'm not going to zoom in right now. There's a wick here and a bit of a wick up there. But I mean, okay, so it's an area, right? Like take it from here, maybe this candle, that was a bullish order block, bearish. Yeah, bullish order block at the time when we invalidated this red candle, but it's on the weekly. So I'd have to take a closer look at that, but I'm not going to right now just for the sake of the video. Anyways, the point is that we need to break out of this area, this major ceiling of resistance, right? Which could take some time. So that's why I've said, don't marry a date. Don't bank on making all-time highs by a date. Don't ask, what's the price going to be by the end of 2022. This could take a year, you guys. We have to be patient, and if you're in it for the long term, it will pay off. And we've just seen it all too many times before. And if you're little risk adverse, then then it's up to you what coins and projects you want to take. Maybe you stick to Ethereum, maybe you stick to Bitcoin. I would consider Solana a pretty safe investment long term, but that's my opinion. Okay, so make your own opinion of it, do your own research, and manage your own risk. Okay. And just another look at Solana on Binance. This is the perpetuals chart on logarithmic function, and obviously I had drawn those levels out prior based on this prior history right back here, right? So obviously there was this level, this floor, this bottom. Yes, we had wicks below, but essentially we had this area of demand, which I would expect to continue being an area of demand. And you can just look at this rounded top, right? Just come right back down to this base of some sort. So yeah, we could still drop this. This might be significant drop. So if you're buying now, long term, you got to be prepared to hold that, potentially to another 25-30% drop. We'll have to see, but I think that long term we're getting close to that point, right? And there is definitely demand in here, so I would expect to see some sort of reaction. It was our previous bottom back here in June 2021, where we just couldn't break below it. And, it goes hand in hand with Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you think Bitcoin and Ethereum are relatively close to their bottoms, then you would expect the same for Solana and majors in the altcoin market. And we have seen that spike in volume that I'm talking about here, right? We just made an all-time high back here in June on Binance for Solana on volume, right? This was a major blow on volume, breaking the previous record made back here in 2021 January. So I like to see this volume, and even if it's a lot of selling, this is what I like. And you know what? I'll just flip to the Bitcoin chart to show you why. So here we go. This is what I'm talking about. This is the Bitcoin chart on Binance, okay? And where did we see those spikes in volume, right? Of course, we see volume spikes in bull markets, but really it doesn't necessarily, when price is pumping this much and supply is getting pinched, it really doesn't take much volume to push the price, like for the price to skyrocket. You can see here, price started to skyrocket, right? But volume kind of maintained. And so we look at those spikes in volume here, where we made all-time high in volume back here. We had this base, obviously, right? This major base in price that people thought was the bottom. Okay, and then it capitulated and we smashed down and we made our true bottom down here. Okay, so this was a year-long, basically, base during this bear market that eventually broke. And we made all-time highs in volume. Okay, these major spikes in volume. And then again, where did we see it? We saw it on the capitulation point, or just the major COVID crash here, all-time high again on volume, thick bars of volume, okay? And so keep in mind, this is just on Binance, but you'll see something similar on other exchanges, okay? And so, yeah, you see the volume for sure when the price pumps and right, it'll probably be the highest right where it tops out kind of thing. But what are we seeing now, right? We're seeing major volume pick up again. So this is very interesting. And it's not crashing as far as we had seen during this recent base. And I'm not saying it can't come down a lot further. It's easily possible, but I'm just pointing something out that it's very interesting, and I like to see this volume picking up again, because that is what we have seen in prior bottoms, is that volume pickup, right? And so it just means that I think we're getting close, really close to potential cycle bottom here. And there's many other factors in my other videos. Please go watch them as to why I think this is the case. It's not just based on volume, but I had noticed that we're making all-time highs here on Binance volume. For the last 4 weeks, we made all-time highs, 5 weeks actually almost. And that's just something to pay attention to. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank you in advance if you do give the channel a like and subscription. And you know what? We'll see you on the next one.